hit record. Hi everyone, good afternoon from Vienna and welcome to my YouTube channel, Making It in Austria. My name is Adela. I'll be your host. I'm Bosnian. And today I have a great guest who brings joy as well, Christel Gano. Welcome to the YouTube channel.
Hello, thanks a lot for having me, Adela.
Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon from Vienna. Christel, we just had a small chat before, so will you share a little bit about yourself to our viewers?
Yeah, sure. So my parents are from the Philippines, to be exact, and then they moved in about when they were in their 20s to Austria. So I was born and raised actually in Austria, but I've also lived in different parts of the world, like Germany, also a short amount of time in the Philippines. Currently, I am a senior marketing analyst, so work in marketing for an IT company, Dell Technologies, but I'm also a pro bono consultant, so I give consulting advice to NGOs around the world virtually, and I am also a blogger.
Cool. That's really so 3 hats at least that you're wearing during the day. You mentioned that you're a blogger, so what do you blog about it?
Yeah, so the whole blogging thing actually started during COVID. So my life changed a lot during this pandemic. So before the pandemic, I was traveling a lot across Europe because of my position in the IT company that I work at currently. So I have clients in Switzerland that I work quite frequently. And then I had obviously more time with the home office, so less travel time. And then I thought, okay, what's the thing that I can do to connect with other people and help other people out? So I created Millennial Warrior, where I tried to give advice in the career world. So I tried to give advice specifically to women about mentorship, coaching, how to find a job. So also simple things like that. And how to be less intimidated in a manly dominated environment. But I also give like finance advice, like simple things like savings or investments, because I feel like a lot of this information, you're never too old or too young to learn about money. And it's always good to have a secure life, we could say. And why not give that information out there for free? Why do you need to join a course or something like that? And right now I have over 1,000 monthly viewers. So it's like really amazing. I never thought like from a hobby that I did over the weekend that it could grow to something like that.
That's really cool story. So this YouTube channel, as I told you, started also during the COVID to connect with more people. I'm curious about the finance. I'm curious about your blog. So if you don't mind, I will ask a couple of questions. One of them is, of course, the finance. You're absolutely right. We don't talk about it. Nobody teaches us that. So we have, like in Bosnia. So I graduated in Bosnia, so we don't have any finance classes whatsoever. And you just jump into the career world, and we should sort it out after we get the first job or whatever. So basically there was no discussion whatsoever during the studies, not at all as well, not in the school. So I picked a few things from my parents, and then later on when I started working, I started realizing the things that I'm just missing, and then joined, as you said, courses and so on. So what are your favorite advices that you give, that you share, or that the community responds to?
Yeah, so it's really, I would say like everything that I share is what I've done myself. So if I write about stocks, if I write about cryptocurrency or savings, it's because I do it myself. I don't put information out there that I have read or not tried out myself, because then I don't feel like it's genuine and people would notice that. And like I would say, like my general advice, it's never too late to save, because a lot of people also in their 40s, they say, okay, now it's time for me to save. I want to buy a house, an apartment for my family. And I'm like, first you need to have an emergency fund. Once you have that covered, an emergency fund for about 2 to 3 years. We saw with the pandemic, it's important to have a kind of like savings for an emergency fund. You never know when, what, and when you will lose a job, or if you have an emergency within the family. You never know these things. So once you have your emergency fund prepared, that should have like savings of your daily expenses from 2 to 3 years. Once you have that, you should focus on what kind of life you want to have. Do you want to have a life that's like securely, meaning you want to get by with the ordinary, or do you want to have like a life that is more like where you have more freedom? And like a lot of people don't know that you can earn, for example, money from blogging through Google AdSense or even through YouTube. And once you put the information out there, it's a running thing. And a lot of people don't know that. So people think that they need to rely on the future based on the salary that they earn. And that's something that I try to share, that you can invest in stocks. A stock, not all stocks cost hundred or thousands dollars or euros. You can buy stocks that cost 10 euros, but of course you need to have some financial information and knowledge also. So I don't say like you need to invest in that because it's kind of like booming right now. I always share that you have some need to have some basics. The information is free out there for Google, right? And then I also share like simple things that you have, like when I say savings, you should have like savings for traveling, savings for food. So always try monthly to put in the individual buckets, I would say, and never touch the other buckets. So that's how you can at least have the first stage like a security for yourself.
That's really I'm reflecting as you were talking at the moment. So for me at the beginning, so when we joined here, we came when we moved to Austria, we came without with the savings, without the job. So we basically had those savings for the first 6 months before I got the job. And later on, it was mainly investing, basically. So I invested all of my money into education, into certificates, into classes, into German classes, into conferences, and so on and so forth. And later on, I did an MBA. And after I did the MBA in the first job, then I started realizing, okay, the whole concept and where I am, and so where do I want to put my money in? So what are my priorities? And of course, now with the family, with the baby on board, it's as well different situation. You think very differently now with the baby on board.
Exactly. And I feel like you touched on a very important topic. Like if you move to a foreign country, it's like you already have this survival mode, we could say. And
Absolutely.
that also, I think, comes also from a background like being a first immigrant generation kid. Is like you have this in your mindset, like, oh, you gotta be prepared. You saw how hard your parents worked. So it's like you don't take things for granted versus somebody who has lived in Austria like for several generations, like 3 generations. You kind of like already have some kind of safety net. But if you're like an immigrant, you're like, oh, you're thinking of all scenarios somehow, like you think about your parents, you think about your relatives back home. So you have a lot of things also on your mind. And I think that's the beauty of it, because with that mindset, you think in advance. And because of this way of thinking of in advance, I was less worried in terms of finances during this pandemic, because that's how I was raised. So I was like always thinking, okay, what if this would happen? Would you be able to get by like that? Yeah.
That's absolutely what you said, Christel. So we have the same situation. So not us, just everybody. Who we have relatives back in Bosnia that we are supporting. We have family members that we are supporting, different foundation organizations, because we know most of us. as you said, we don't take things for granted. So
Mm,
most of us had to, fight to get to the university, to have scholarships for the university to study. So those all these things that we got through life, you had to really put a lot of effort. And as I said,
yes.
here when you come, I remember one of my chats that I had with one of my mentors. I told her, like, I cannot really, relax here. That was a couple of years back, because just as you said, you don't have a safety net. I'm working on a visa, and that means,
Mm,
it's like, even though I work in a, highly secure job and so on, you have all this, right? The education, the
yes.
certificates, the network, and so on. But there is as well some, this a little voice that said, oh, okay, we have to prepare and prepare even more and even more and even more. So in all senses, like kind of overperforming on all on all
Yeah.
aspects.
Yeah, it's like not
It's hard
even
to
only,
relax, right?
yeah,
But
it's
even though
like,
if you have the money and you have the security, the job, you
mhm,
think like, okay, should I relax now or no? What can happen?
absolutely. And it's not even about taking things for granted, but I feel like um if you moved to Austria, you kind of realize how blessed you are. Like I've seen like both worlds, I could say, yeah. And I've been to different parts of the world too. And like not everywhere education is for free
Yeah,
or social insurance. And when I was an intern in the Philippines back in 2014, so it's a bit a while ago already. I like there were like kids that I saw in a small village that were fighting for their education.
yeah,
And then when I came back here, I was like, okay, I gotta take things more seriously and everything. And because a lot of people want to get an education, and here
yeah,
it's for free. And even though I could afford it and everything, I really tried hard in my studies, and then I got a scholarship. And that's because of what I saw, like other kids really wanting to, but not being able to go
yeah.
to school or to university. That's then what inspired me to try harder, because I know that I have an opportunity. And the same goes also with my work. Like there are not a lot of Asians in the IT world, or women in the
Yeah.
IT world.
Here.
So I know like I have an opportunity, and I'm kind of also representing uh, the female generation or female immigrants in my career. Um, so I really try to see at it as a blessing, even though it can be difficult, right, to think like you're representing everyone and trying your best. But I feel like if you look at it that way, that you are blessed and that it's an opportunity, you also grow from it, and other doors open from it as well.
True, absolutely, and 100% to what you said. It's once you see that the other world, when where even the best students, then they cannot get to go to the university because, for instance, their parents cannot afford it, because as they have 4 or 5 kids, and that's the
Mm,
way it is. And just you see those stories over and over again, and then you see, okay, as you just described yourself, so I can do even more. And that's the mentality that we develop, right? So then the mindset is like, okay, what's next, for me as well, and for my family, it was always, okay, what's the next thing? I don't
exactly.
want to
Yeah.
sit like in my comfort zone. It feels too comfortable. Like, okay, what's next in my job, in my career, so in general. So what's out there, what am I missing, and what could I try as well?
Yeah, it's because like in the Philippines, like they put this so high emphasis on education, like
Yeah,
even my parents, like everyone has the university degrees, also my parents and my brother and I, we have 2 degrees. And it's because their mentality is that besides love and wisdom and their own personal stories, what they can give for the future generations is like education in terms of helping them to have a better life than they already had. So that's why they put this very high emphasis on it. But of course, you should try to like study something that you're passionate
of
about, and
course.
also goes with work. Like I generally believe that if you have a profession, you should like it yourself. You should be happy and passionate about it, because if it's just something that you're doing to please other people, you will not be successful at it. Regardless how high paying the job is, you will not be happy and you will not be successful. Because in my case, I really love what I do. It doesn't feel like a job to me, and it's more like as a kind of like using my skills as a service, and that's how I try to look at my career.
Absolutely. And that's where you can blossom, right? That's when, where
Mm,
if you are in the field that you feel passionate about, then you start, finding other ways and other opportunities as well. So that's where you feel like free, you can freely explore things. Absolutely. Christel, you said the other part of your blog is about networking,
mhm.
mentoring, career. So what are the advices that you got throughout your career that were, on, top advices, or that helped you, to perpetuate through your career?
Yeah, so like I currently have like 6 years of work experience in marketing. But prior to that, I also worked for banks and had other professions along my studies. And what I always find so inspiring is when women support each other, like in any career fields. So I always say like you in charge of your own career, right? So you can have your degree, you can have your XY number of experience, but it's always up to you what you do. Like I always say you have to express what you want to your manager. Of course, show what you have done, but you cannot expect a promotion or expect that somebody believes that you are doing your job well because you always have done well. You also have to look for opportunities outside of your department and also do networking. I always say, like, if you want to have a career advancement, you have to also acknowledge that it's important that you are open to growth, and growth only comes through mentorship and networking.
Mhm.
So I touch, for example, on my blog on the subject that one mentor is not enough. You
Mm.
should have like a network mentor. So network mentor, I define it as somebody who helps you to network with other industries, with other professions outside of your current field. Um, and so that person necessarily is somebody who has a bigger community on LinkedIn, for example, that you can just reach out to
Mm.
um, and ask for genuine advice. And then I would say you also need an industry mentor. So, for example, in my case, I work in IT,
Mhm.
and I try to build my career in IT right now. So I have mentors in IT, in my current company that I work in, and also other companies in the IT industry. And then I would also say that you need a mentor in your own team. So this
Mhm.
could be either your manager or somebody at a higher leadership position. So that person, when the doors are closed and
Mm.
there's, for example, room for opportunity, that mentor in the company can say, oh, for example, oh, she or he did X, Y, say of project. I recommend that person.
Mm.
Because usually those conversations are behind
Yeah.
closed doors. Um, so I would say you need kind of like these three types of mentorships, and a person who is, you don't just go like to someone and say like, hey, can you be my mentor? That's not how it goes. You usually have to also say like, I'm interested in the similar topic. Would you be willing, for example, to share your story? And then you build a relationship. So
Mm.
it doesn't happen from day one, and it really needs to be something that's on a regular basis, so not daily, but like maybe every 3 months that you get in touch with that mentor, and just check in, because a person who is a mentor usually also wants to learn from the
Yeah.
mentee. um, so they're always looking for people that they can learn from actually as well. So it's like a give and take as well.
Absolutely. So this two-way street, as
Yes,
Simon Sinek
exactly.
would say it, in a way that we get and give as well. Christel, how about for our viewers of making it in Austria? So now we're talking about your way to Austria. So you were born here, you studied here as well, you made the internship abroad. How did you find your first job? And are there other challenges that you have faced along the way throughout your career?
Yeah, that's funny because my first jobs were actually outside Austria. So I lived also in Germany um, in 2015. And so I didn't have like that experience first job in Austria. Like I had it abroad. And because I was kind of like raised in the mindset, the world is smaller than you think. And I'm super grateful about that. But when it comes to Austria, obviously, you always need to be aware that there are more opportunities if you know the language. So if you know
Mm.
German, it's easier. So I will not sugarcoat
Yeah.
that. But I would say you shouldn't hold yourself back because you might think, okay, I don't have a chance given my background or the way I look. Some people also have that mindset, right? um, you always have to look at the culture. So if you want to have a team environment where there's open communication, try to research that online. Like, how is the culture like? And then decide on if you want to apply for the job or not.
Mm.
Because at the end of the day, you should get along with your colleagues. You should be feeling like also fulfilled and in a safe environment. Yeah. um, but I would say, of course, there are like experiences like racism that I grew up with just because of the way I look, obviously, or the common sentence, like, are you Austrian, or are you Filipino? So those questions always were asked, unfortunately, or fortunately, I could say so now. um, I learned growing up that I don't have to pick a side. So I can
Mm.
be both. I don't, it, nobody else decides what I am or who I am. But that's why I would say, like, growing up, of course, it was difficult because for my parents, obviously, it was also difficult, like, how to teach their children the values of the Philippines, the values of Austria. And so finding that middle ground, I believe, was difficult for my parents, but I'm super grateful that I grew up with both cultures and multiple cultures. And I was exposed to a lot of nationalities because in my master's degree and bachelor's degree, there were a lot of international students. And even at work now, it's very international. And my colleagues that I work with, so it's a lot nicer if there are different cultures, definitely. And there's less explanation, um, and a lot more curiosity. So I learn a lot from other immigrants, and like they can learn from me. Um, and I feel, um, if you are born here or if you came later in life, like um, you learn to be to get along with difficult situations. So you learn how to overcome adversity. You
Mhm.
learn that adversity comes with a lesson and a blessing as well. um, and so it's really beautiful to be part of different cultures. um, and of course it's difficult and everything. You cannot make everyone happy, and there's some people that are not open to all cultures, obviously. But you learn to kind of like ignore that, or to understand also their point of views because you're exposed to that. And something very beautiful is you learn to dream big, I would say, because you already have that guard and that motivation to try harder. So I feel like it's extremely motivating if you have an immigrant background, because you kind of learn that even though it's difficult, you want to try hard. And of course, there's some self doubt along the
Mm.
way and some setbacks. Not everything. is always happy and rosy and beautiful. Um, but like it just makes you stronger, and either you carry that with you in your career or in your private life, and that's very beautiful. I would say.
Thank you, Crystal, for that. Yeah, so many beautiful things that you have said along the way, and made me think as well for our future generation. So how do you find basically this balance between, so that she knows both cultures? And I like what you said, that you don't have to pick, and that's how I feel as well. And many of my guests as well, who have been born here or came at early age, that
Mhm.
I don't want to pick the sides. So I
Exactly.
want both. So why should I have to choose for one side, or just speak in one language and not forget the other one, and
Mm.
so on? So it's who I am, and that's what makes you, even as you said, stronger and more authentic. And you can, basically wherever you go, you can show your real face. You don't have to carry any masks, and pretend to be something that you are not. And embracing your full story is, what makes life, in this age. I would say that maybe that those are ways before, years before, or uh, decades before. Maybe it was different for the first migrants. Maybe for your parents, there were other challenges that they have faced, and maybe along the way they could not express, both sides. I know that for some Bosnians, that they forgot, the language at all, or they
Mhm.
don't teach their kids the language, because, now we are in Austria, and the German language is the most important. So put the whole focus in that. And then what happens is that the kids don't, until when they age 10 or 12 or 15, they don't speak the language anymore, or very, very basic things.
Yeah.
Uh, so
It's
that's as well.
something it's
Mm,
something that's really sad. And I am an integration ambassador for Zusammen Österreich. So it's an
yeah.
association founded by the Austrian
Hmm.
Ministry. And the goal is to visit schools to inspire the next generation about different cultures.
Hmm.
And what I always try to say is it's okay not to know German perfectly, and it's something really nice if you are able to speak different languages, because let's say, for example, if somebody is not that great in German, yeah, you shouldn't disregard that or
Yeah.
downgrade that person, because if the person's German is not that great, it means that person is smart enough to know a different language.
Yes.
And that's how people should look at it. And of course, when you are a kid and smaller, you take to heart what your
Yeah.
teachers say. And my teacher told me, I'm not smart enough. I will never graduate university. And I was 11, so I was like in
Wow.
shock. What should I do with that? And then I was the first to graduate from my bachelor's degree. I was the youngest. I had a scholarship in my master's, and I took it more like a motivation. But not everyone
Yes.
has that mindset,
Yeah.
right? So I really,
And the
when
parents support, and their
exactly,
story and guidance.
absolutely. And I think that's the beautiful thing about this association that was founded in Austria, where you visit schools and try to teach the kids that it's the world that we live in now.
Yes.
It's more global. It's not like before, where people in the 18th century, 19th century, where there were no planes. That's a different life. Um, we're in a different generation, and I generally have hope for the future generation, because with the internet, and also with how jobs are being developed, and how these international mindsets, and that you try to challenge the status quo,
Yeah.
even though it means to have difficult conversations every now and then. I generally believe people are more open to different nationalities, and also more aware of social biases and diversity.
Mm. Thank you, Crystal. Thank you for mentioning the Zusammen Österreich. I will link if they have a web page, probably
Yeah,
website
sure.
and so on. So I will share it with people if they are interested in the comment section. Thank you so much for being our guest. So the time flew so fast, and I would have hundreds of more questions for you as well. But I hope we will catch up soon in one of the next monthly get together. I would love to continue conversation with you, and of course you to meet everybody else from the community.
I'd love that. That would be awesome.
I will let you know the dates. And before we wrap up, I would like to ask you if there's a book that you would like to share with the guests, with the viewers.
Yeah, sure. It's called the 5 a.m. Club.
Okay.
Um, and I have to look up the author. I apologize. And it's really inspiring because it's based on this knowledge that you have to wake up at 5 a.m. But it's actually more than that. It's like this idea that you have to divide it's an advice, not have to, an advice to divide your days into 20 minutes. So, like 20 minutes exercise, 20 minutes meditation about gratitude and your future goals, and then 20 minutes learning something new.
Mhm.
So it's like really inspiring because it's like motivating about the importance about like happiness and health and self-fulfillment. So it sounds like mundane, like 5 a.m. club,
Yeah.
like crazy. But like when you read it, it's like really the emphasis on your well-being and then also on your future goals, your career goals, and the health of your family. So it really touches on everything. So I really advise for anyone to read it. Um, Male, female, immigrant, or non-immigrant. It's like super inspiring to read that book.
Thank you so much. The author is Robin Sharma.
Ah, yes. Do you
Yes,
know that book?
yes. I know that book, and I follow him on Instagram for quite some time.
You're
I think
such
I
an
have his
inspiring
newsletter as
person.
well. Yes, he
Yeah, and
is.
he's going to publish another book, so I'm
Yes,
waiting for that
I
one.
think Everyday Hero or something. It's the
Absolutely.
name of the book. So it's really cool, and he has
So
nice,
cool.
inspiring posts on Instagram, so that I can recommend. Thank you so much, Christel, for being our guest today. It was a pleasure talking to you. I wish you all
Thanks
the
a
best
lot
for
to
your
you.
yeah.
Thank you so much. It's really great, like your channel, and that you have set this up. It's really cool that you try to make a difference. So really, really inspiring. You can be proud of yourself.
Thank you, Christel. Thank you, and you can be, of course, proud of yourself and your parents, of you. I see big things for you, and I hope they come true. And thank you
Thank
everyone
you.
for watching. So please share with your community, comment. I love reading all of your comments and your private messages, and subscribe for the channel, because we are bringing more guests the next week and week after. Thank you so much, and enjoy your evening.